Hey, welcome back to Deadlines and Detours. Today's latest episode is with Andy Farmer from MyOxygen. Those guys, they've been making apps since the start of the big mobile push, really, about 15 years ago when the iPhone sort of really launched. They worked with highly regulated industries, defense, the NHS, the energy sector, and they're all-round great guys. We go through a multitude of different things, mainly a little bit around AI, obviously. We talk about our love for Apple computers and just the art of design and how to keep everything when you're making an app as beautiful on the code side as it is the actual application. It's a really great story, and I think we really have just great fun just really talking to each other and building great friendship. So welcome, join, and yeah, let's go.
AI at the moment is a yes person beyond belief.
But it's fascinating, isn't it?
It's a spiritual thing and is amazing for mental health.
Is that good? Do we like Ewan, McGregor?
Why are we doing it?
Welcome, Andy. Good to see you today. Just got back from your trip to France. Was that good?
Amazing. Yeah, riding a motorcycle is for me is a spiritual thing and is amazing for mental health. So to be able to do it for a whole week in somewhere as beautiful as Brittany is yes, very special. Loved it.
My best experience of going on a nice motor is watching Ewan McGregor do it. I mean, that was fun. That was good. Is that good? Do we like Ewan McGregor? Do we like that show?
Yeah, I mean, he loves, he loves motorbikes and he's passionate about it. And I think watching anyone do something that they really love like that is great.
Definitely.
Obviously, he's got loads of money. He's got loads of motorbikes, and when they do a trip, they've got a big support team with them.
I was talking to someone else who does the bike trips around, and he was saying that I'm not sure where they were, sort of Asia way, and he was saying about the tires and the costs and going to different areas, and you might pay something like 20 pounds for a tire here, or you might pay 300. So you got to plan about where you're gonna sort of pull in and stuff like that. So when you're Ewan McGregor, it's not so bad, is it? You just sort of new tires, please.
Yeah, back of the van. Yeah.
So like F1 where they stick them on in 3 seconds, and then you go out and keep recording. Thanks for joining today. We've had a few little chats beforehand, and I know we're definitely going to dig into AI and our love of Apple and Steve Jobs. And I've got a couple of questions at the end about, I always talk about what's your favorite products of Apple or Android, and I think I know the answer already, but we'll wait and see.
Might surprise you.
Might surprise me right at the last minute. It's sort of curveball.
Yeah.
For anyone who doesn't know you, for anything, just a very brief sort of who's Andy and how did you get to be here today, sort of thing.
Yeah, so I've been running MyOxygen nearly 20 years. It's hard to believe, and I've really been involved in tech probably 30 years, and always had a real passion for especially mobile technology, way back into, not everyone will hear, but PalmPilot and sort of PDM mobile devices, and got into kind of SMS and other different types of mobile technology, and really from that found myself moving into app development and specifically mobile focused technology, I guess.
You say about the PalmPilots. I had a PalmPilot, and I can't tell you which one it was, but it had a silver sort of tungsten sort of finish. Yep. And I connected it to my Nokia, maybe 3310. No, what was the long one? The one that was sort of business, but yeah, 33.
3310 or 32. They had these long numbers.
It's a long one. It was a long one, and I generally thought that I was in the future. I thought I was in the Matrix before the Matrix even came along with that. I remember there was some really rudimentary store where you could download sort of plugins for it and everything. I mean, I loved it. I don't think I ever used it for anything other than just sat and just tinkering with it. But I would like to think. And then I had the Nokia Communicator as well. Do you remember the slide up one with the keyboard? Yeah. That was cool as well.
Yep.
So I thought I was in the again in the Matrix with that one. But I suppose much like you then, I saw that then. I just knew that this was the way it was going, but had no idea we would be. I don't think there was any world in which when I was messing around with that Palm Pilot, I had any idea that all of our lives would just be on mobile phones.
Absolutely.
Literally every single thing
Yeah.
now, isn't it?
And of course, some people don't know, but Apple also had something called the Apple Newton, which was also a
Yes.
which I've got and I keep.
Have you got it?
I got one of those. I've got the original. I've probably got this. I didn't keep my first iPhone. I've got the second or third, and I like to hold it and compare it to kind of the iPhone. And I often use it. If I meet with a new client, I like to put the first generation or second generation iPhone with the new one and explain, the process of how long it's taken them 20 years to get from that first iPhone to where they are now. It's been a real.
What I find is quite interesting as well with iPhones is the new thing that this year's new thing. I've just bought the Air, the
Yeah,
new one actually. I normally go for the Pro, but I thought I'd go for the Air, just something different. I got excited.
yeah,
And I look at it and it's an iPhone 5S, it's
yeah,
taken all those keys. So although that they evolve, they're not shy in looking back at some of the things that made other ones great. And you do see those bits throughout the sort of new ones, definitely. Yeah, I think well, let's do a little favorite. Think it was the iPhone 5. That was my favorite. Do you have a
really.
favorite at all?
I would say probably was it the X or the 10?
Oh, yeah, when they first did the
Yeah, absolutely. That's where it started to. Yeah, I think that probably would have been my.
yeah, because they were not necessarily market share, but they were losing their edge, weren't they? Before that, with the bezels and the thumb, and that one came out, and that did feel like if you and I, so it's sponsored by Apple this one, but the Air, I must be honest, when I hold it, it does feel like that again. It gives me that kind of happy feeling that Apple are doing something really,
Yeah. Well,
just cool.
yeah, they're. I mean, that's it. Their attention to detail, their whole design, their whole kind of ethos is. They made tech look. You know, look great, look cool, and it wasn't. You look back to PCs and that whole kind of, and even phones, everything looked clunky. It wasn't. It
Yeah.
wasn't.
Well, I remember when we first started putting apps. I was working for a company called Mears Group, a housing company, and they were starting to build apps. I guess this is 2008 or something. We started putting it, and 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 the app thing is cool, but when we had to sell it, when we had to go show it off, being able to use all the assets that Apple had created and the things, it made it easy to sell because you just pulled it all together.
Yeah.
Yeah, I miss those days. They were good
Yeah.
times.
Well, they were great. Like all tech, they were the kind of the very early. It was the innovation. Things were. The curve was like going very steep. So there was this. It was an exciting time, and there are. And I've been lucky enough, I suppose, to go through a few of those. Moments in technology where it's really. You know, it's really cool, and it's an exciting time.
Yeah. Do you think it's as exciting today as it was, when it first started? I think, I'm going to say AI. I mean, it's the one thing that everyone's super excited about at the moment. But is that the next plug-in, the next piece to sort of start looking at putting into sort of applications, or do you think, be
Yeah.
careful of what you wish for? And
Wow, that's a big, that's a big. I mean, it's impacting across, I guess, all technologies, all industries. I think when I look back to the past and how I started, I was up in Leeds at the time, um, and I've been made redundant, and I remember seeing the first Apple Macs at college when we were at college, and we thought they're never going to take off, and um, I went back and bought a Mac with my redundancy money to start using the software. And at the time, there was a big there was a big change in the printing industry, big disruption, because desktop, what the Mac bought was desktop publishing to kind of the home design and desktop publishing. So the traditional print industry was starting to go through a big change. We saw, there was a big impact on printers and people that are working in the print industry having to move into digital and into desktop publishing. That's how I got into tech. I basically learned myself how to use software and then started training printers, people in the print industry, how to use technology and how to move into kind of digital desktop. Yeah, so I've seen that kind of curve from then, and then I basically from that I went into had an Apple authorized dealership and some microsystems. So I kind of went in from the software into providing design equipment and equipment for design studios and printers up in Yorkshire and Leeds, where so you kind of seen these big, but it was one sector, and I think what we're seeing with AI is its impact across all technologies, but all industries.
I can't imagine in the design industry now that there's much call for, analog sort of traditional sign writing. There's probably a niche. I think there's probably a niche, and people like those traditional signs, but I imagine it's all done now.
Digitally.
It's funny. In 2004, going back to our Mac story, 2004, I remember having some money and wanted a PC, and I went to PC World, out of all places. It was the only place that was available. Nowadays, I can't do anything worse. But I went into there, and they had all of the computers, and then they just had this MacBook just sat there, and it was a refurbished or customer returns one. It was the MacBook Ti. I remember it, Power Mac. And I picked it up and I looked at it, and the guy in the shop was saying, "Don't buy a Mac. They're awful. You can't play games on them. You can't do this. You can't do that." And he's telling me all this thing, and there's almost this fake like aura just like around this thing. And I bought it with my money. Everyone told me I was a fool, but I loved using it. I loved the fact that the icons were just right, and I could put my files in a folder and everything looked neat and tidy. And from that day up until even today, I've only ever used Macs. And when I'm a contractor, so when I work in different places and they give me a PC sometimes, my first thing is there a web app for this I can just use my Mac on, and that I will do every single thing I can do. The only thing for me that's worse than a PC is having to use a Chromebook. But that's
well, my wife is, and I'm like you, I've been with Mac forever. I've been in tech so long, using Macs for so long. Now my wife is a total Windows. She will not move to Mac.
How could you stay married? I
know. At any time, well, she's iPhone, iPad, but PCs. And any time she's got problems, turns to me to try and sort. And I'm like, absolutely, I've got no idea.
Absolutely the same. People, because I am tech support for anyone and any person, and having to navigate those. My last, we will move on in a minute about MyOxygen. The last one as well, I remember, and this is just how the cult of Apple really does bring. I think it was Windows 10 or something came out, and I was with my friend. He was a graphic designer, admittedly, and we were like, "Oh, actually, it looks quite nice. They've done a really good job on it." And I think we clicked one folder structure down, and basically it was just Windows 98 with a different skin on the top
absolutely.
thing, and that was always the difference. It was always that. Whereas Apple, I think there's a story about Steve Jobs and his dad saying that that they had made the back of the cabinet case look as good as the front, and I think that's when Steve started to put the microchips inside were as good looking as outside and stuff. And I think that DNA goes through, and I think if you adopt that, and I'm sure you guys do at kind of MyOxygen, that it's not just what the customer sees, the code behind it has to look good, and the way it's set up has to look good. Otherwise, no one will know, but everyone will know, and it's that's the thing.
I used to look at our development team, the guys, and I used to say your code is like music, like writing music, and it's it should be beautiful, and it should be
really believe it. And I think every project I've ever worked on, Yeah, it's always been that. Yeah, I know, but we've got to get this bit right because otherwise it'll be a fail. I think it's probably just because I spent too much time reading Apple stuff and got caught up. But I also knew it deep in the thing. Before we go too far down
Yeah,
that thing,
yeah.
let's find out MyOxygen. For anyone who doesn't know you guys, what do you actually do there?
What do we do? Well, it's certainly changed again. Like we're in technology, so I'd say over the last 5 to 10 years, it's certainly changed. We've been predominantly, I would say, a mobile app development focused business. And I think, as we were talking earlier, probably one of the things that has changed is we've got much more involved in kind of the integration. The app has become much more part of many different systems in a business. So our requirement to understand and learn how kind of that app plugs into everything else going on in a business has been, I suppose, one of the biggest change. Where in the very early days of app development, it was very much a standalone piece of technology and software. It was, whereas as it's evolved, it's now much more part of a bigger ecosystem. So I would say, but we are still, and I'm still, and always have been passionate about mobile, and we are very mobile focused. But it is building, we're building digital products, and those products, touch many different areas of a ecosystem within a business.
I agree totally. I mean, mobile is king now. That is the computer that you have, and that the workstation, the desktop or laptop is secondary. I think, and the amount of time certainly that you've got it in your hand. I mean, my whole going back to the new iPhone, I always set a new iPhone up fresh each time. I quite like the sort of process of setting it up. I know it's weird, but when I was doing it, I was setting it up, particularly this time, and it was only about 3 or 4 weeks ago, and the software that we're using to record this here, got that on my phone. I'm not using it today, but that's on my phone if I want to be. My emails on my phone, my banking apps are on my phone, my Google Docs and Workspace is all on my phone. I wear glasses, so I need a bigger screen, but if I didn't and I had younger eyes, I could do 99% of my work on a phone every single time. And I would choose that as well. That's the way that I would do it. And I can't imagine anyone under the age of 30 or certainly 25 thinks any different at all. And I think that's just the standard.
Yeah. And I guess for us, one of our focuses has been really around how we choose the clients we work with and the type of project. So I would say we have been mainly working in B2B, a lot in digital health. Probably 80% of our products that we've built with clients has been uh, in the health sector. And actually our first mobile app was with the NHS, and this is back in probably it would have been 2007, 2008, and we were approached by the Bristol NHS to help them signpost different health services to try and avoid everybody turning up at A&E. They have this big kind of drive to try and
Kind of trying to do that now, aren't they?
yeah, I think, well, it's still a problem. It's still, and so what we our brief was to see how we could use mobile to help kind of signpost other services, and it linked into appointments, and it was one of their, I think it was probably one of their first app based projects.
Oh,
It
cool.
was
Yeah. Yeah.
really
Yeah.
early.
Yeah. That feels about right, doesn't it? Timing wise. Yeah.
Yeah, and then we kind of worked with other. It was very fragmented at the time, and again, we've seen the NHS and kind of their approach to digital has gone through very different sort of versions of how they manage projects, and but we then rolled it out and worked with other trusts to kind of reskin this application we've built to use across their services. So I think because of that, I mean, for me personally, it was this moment of the technology being in the right place, the sort of right place at the right time, the adoption of it, uh, uh, and kind of for me the right client. You know, the what I realized at that time was these were the type of projects I wanted to work on that have got, you know, they've got value. And going back to our strapline was kind of changing the way people work and live. So it was about improving, you know, using apps to improve work. And then from the health side was, I guess, our living bit was really the patients or you know, people using tech within the health service. So it kind of was a perfect moment, really, going, wow, you know, I want to do more of this.
And back in 2007, was there quite a resistance for people to use mobiles then? Was that imagine it was a harder sell certainly than it is today, or did people see the about, you know?
I think a lot of people, don't forget, we've been through BlackBerry. You know, the mobile technology was already being used. I think what the launch of the iPhone did was kind of expose the real kind of potential of it. And so I think there was, you know, this was the start of real appetite. I think this was where people saw there was going to be great opportunity, and the technology was in the right place. And I think, you know, people were in the right place to adopt and use it. So I think it was that kind of moment, really. And then I think what we found, and certainly with that, there was normally somebody within the organization that was like a passionate, an ambassador. Yeah. So so you kind of, you had those people that led the kind of ideas and the drive for it, and we worked with those people. So it was great because there was that shared passion, you know, that shared love of technology, and then really wanting it to be used in a really good way. So yeah, it was perfect, really. Yeah.
You said about the rolling out and sort of reskinning it and moving it out.
Yeah.
I think we sort of touched on, in the old days, an app was very separate, wasn't it? I remember working on projects. You'd build the website, there'd be a database stuff, and then people go with the app, and that was built in a completely different technology. It was always some wrapper, and it was all pulled together. But I think nowadays that's very different. It's probably very different for you guys. The app becomes something that isn't necessarily a standalone. Is that right?
Yeah, and I think again the big changes when we initially started development, when we first started, we were still developing. We were actually still developing for BlackBerry and then Windows. You know,
What
Windows.
could you develop for Black? They had an app store, did they?
Yeah, but yeah, BlackBerry, yeah, BlackBerry App Store, and then also, of course, Windows. Yeah, and they bought Nokia, so suddenly you know, you kind of had Windows on, and they had about 12% of the market share in their height. So they were,
Did they
yeah,
really? I never realized they took quite
yeah,
a
were
thing. I know they were always there, and
yeah,
business liked them because it was Windows and it felt somehow
integrated into
securer.
Microsoft, you know,
Yeah.
Microsoft services. So you know, if a client came to us, the real big challenge was there was almost four platforms and four different pieces of software develop to build an application. So it was, you know, it's kind of four times the cost of four times the time. And we focused on native app development at the time because, and even when there was just really BlackBerry fell to the side, and of course, the same with Windows Mobile and Nokia, when there was really just two players, iOS and Android. We built using native tools because we felt, even though there were other tools that allowed you to kind of use one code base, there were a few platforms allowing you to do that. Native gave you the best user experience, and for us, that was key. Really, that native was the way to kind of do it, and is still the case now in certain circumstances. But
I remember being really pushy and throwing my toys out of a pram because I was in the house I was in. They wanted to go with Android first, and that was fine. And then they wanted to build. I think it was Xamarin at the time or whatever. I'm sure it's perfectly a good tool, but at the
yeah,
time it was the wrapper tool that they wanted to put through, and it just never felt. And they were pulling. I mean, this is probably very different. They were pulling kind of almost those Android assets across, and it was almost that thing. And I was very insistent that no, it can't be like that. And I think I delayed that project so much. They must have hated me, but we got it out and we got a native one out in the
yeah,
end. I think now I certainly came off a project recently about 6 months ago, and that was using a wrapper tool, and I think those days are completely different now, aren't they? And it just
absolutely.
it just it
Well,
just works.
well, we've now got I would guess, I suppose we've got a couple of we've got a few frameworks, but we've been using React Native. Well, yeah, and so you've got Google Flutter and you've got React Native, and they allow you to build one code base and deploy across iOS and Android, and they do the job really well. And I think the thing is, you know it's about the application, what it's going to do, and as you say, you could use Xamarin in certain circumstances, and there are there are situations where building native, especially using things like Bluetooth, and you need Bluetooth libraries. Native can be much easier than relying on libraries for for Flutter or for React Native. So it's about the application, where it's going to be used, and how, I think, is key.
Now, still where you'll build native or you'll build sort of wrapper. I don't like to use the word wrapper because it sounds
Yeah,
throwaway, and it's not.
yeah,
Yeah,
no, it's not. It's not. But I we're often client driven, so it
yeah,
again will depend on the environment of the client,
of
what we're
course,
integrating it
of
with,
course.
what the type of application is. So we are much more, can I use, agnostic, in a
Yeah.
way that we will have our preferences and our suggestions, and sometimes the client will take that on board, and sometimes they won't. So we can only influence it to a certain degree.
Yeah, definitely. I guess talking about some of those clients then, you've worked in like really highly regulated industries, energy, MOD,
Yeah.
NHS. How do you go about, and I'm only thinking from my sort of thing, how do you go about going, okay, we want the best product out there. We want it to be the shiniest, coolest product out there. But then you're working in massively highly regulated industries that somehow, sometimes can, let's be honest, take the fun away from what we want to deliver. How do you navigate that and then still put a really cool product out? Like,
I mean, looking at the kind of the Navy, the MOD and the Navy project we worked on with Babcock, I mean, that was probably our most, I would say most not complicated as far as the app, but certainly the environment and the security, and just work in that environment. But again, the main person that was driving that forward, he really understood the importance to work agile, and to kind of get a prototype and build on that. So he kind of, there was this, the great thing we were able to do with that, we went and met. So we went and met the team. So we went, before doing any development, we literally just took an iPad down to Plymouth to the base there, and we went on a Type, I think it was the Type 23 frigate, and we met the survey team, because our brief was to help digitize a surveying process.
and is this team technical at all? Is this, did they have
They
any? No.
they were like technically in the way that they use technology and they use mobile apps, but they were not. They were people that went on the ship when it came in. They would go and they'd spend a week. About 6 of them would basically go through the whole ship and do a a survey of any of the parts within the ship that need replacing, repairing. And it had been they would do it with a clipboard, so they'd spend a week going through, taking notes, writing on a clipboard. And at the end of the week, they would all go back to shore. They would go into the office, and then it would all be typed into a big database. So our job was to kind of digitize that process. But we went down and spent some time with the team to kind of see the environment they were working in. So do they have signal? Do they, I mean, at the time, if they were wearing heavy gloves,
Offlining content, I guess, and then re-uploading it. And
just seeing what the environment was like and spending, and also they were part of that development process. So they were helping shape and decide what the best features were, what they would need. And I always look back and think about how important that was. That wasn't somebody higher up saying, "Oh, we're going to go and build this. We've got an idea for this." And then later, the team that are working with it only get to see it first. The first time they'll see it 12 months later, and it's kind of there, and they haven't been part of that process.
what are you trying to do? Why do you want it to be like this? And I think so many projects fail when, like you say, someone says, we've got a bit of a budget, we need an app, go and build it. So what? I'm sure it'll be a great app. I'm sure it'll be well built and look nice, but who cares?
And I think that's one of the common things. And I think we still, and I still see that with AI and with any new shiny technologies. It's, we need this, and we need an app, we need AI. And it is about that. Well, why? Why are we doing it? What's the reason for it? What's the impact? How do we build something that's successful? And I think we love technology, and I live and breathe it, but I still want to know why. We still, if somebody came and said, we need an app, it would be, well, why? What do you? How do you know you need an app?
That's interesting that I was going to ask you that, because you're obviously app predominant, but has there ever been times where someone's come and said, we want an app, and actually you've ended up delivering them something that wasn't an app?
I think it's definitely, you need to know there's a good reason for it. You need to know, there needs to be, there's some realities around it that, building a digital product is and is still not easy. There are lots of dependencies, lots of reasons why a digital product can succeed or fail, and they're not just based on, if it's web or if it's app. There are many things. So it's about setting out that, I guess, that map and that plan for the journey. And we might know, what the company would want, where they would want that end to be. But our job is to really map it out and plan it. And that's really the key. And something I've learned, and I'm still learning, that the and I've often used the quote, and I took somebody else's quote, and I wish I knew where it was from, and it was something like, focus on the process and the product will come. And I've always used that. And as much as I love tech and I love apps, it's about knowing the process and understanding the process is a big part of.
Yeah, I totally get that, and I probably 10 years ago, I was probably made that mistake of going, no, this is what we need. It's the
Yeah.
shiny. Let's get it in, get it in. I think I'm a lot more pragmatic now about, okay, what do we actually want? And I think now you were saying, I think there's never been an easier time to build tech, but I also think there's never been a harder time to get it right. Because when you were saying, when you probably made that first app, it was probably all on board on one thing. Now you've got APIs everywhere. It's going off to databases. It's got to go through all of these firewalls and security loops. And those, that must be mind-boggling from 2007 when you were first probably make an app and it was all stored in cache on the phone.
It was a standalone, very solo, piece of technology with not many dependencies. Whereas, like I say, we now will be looking at 5, 6, 10 different pieces of software built in different technologies. So again, part of the planning is what is the system architecture, Matt? What are all the pieces in the puzzle? Who owns them? Do they have APIs? How mature are the APIs? How well documented are the APIs? How good?
I'm glad you mentioned that. I was going to touch on that because I find quite often, and I can say this because I'm not working with anyone at the moment, I find quite often that I'll go in, we'll talk about a great idea, and then, our friends at security and governance will kind of get involved around the sort of the tech side of stuff and say, we need everything to fall in this. And then you quite often will ask the question, and the question around, where is all your high level diagrams? Where are your sort of your standards? Are rarely there in a lot of organizations, and organizations have run really well. So it's quite difficult then. It's a really difficult thing when you're bringing in new tech that's sort of exciting to adhere to some rules that maybe are or aren't there. That's always quite complicated. And I don't know what the answer to that one is, other than sit with an architect and draw all of their diagrams up with them. Is that?
I think for us, that's part of the process. The process is what and even now we would normally a client would approach us. They normally know that there's a problem or a blocker in the organization, and they think technology is going to solve that problem, and they would then go away and they would and often siloed, they would write a specification, which is normally an Excel spreadsheet, and they would also go and get a budget. So they would try and assign a budget to that particular development. They would come to somebody like MyOxygen or development company. They would say, and the two questions they still ask is, how much is it going to cost and how long is it to take?
And the answer is always, well, what do you want and how good do you want it to be?
And they've got this, wonderful brief that they put together. And and again, if I look at the changes and how much I've and I'm definitely not I wouldn't say I'm a process driven person, but the importance of process, the importance of that kind of journey is and certainly one of the biggest changes for us over the years is perfecting and understanding that process. So we would often say, oh, that's, they would say, oh, we've put this brief together, this specification, we've been doing it for a year, and we would have to say, oh, that's fantastic, that's going to be really helpful, now let's do it together. Yeah, let's start again.
Would you say what I've definitely noticed as well is that most exciting new products and things that people want rarely come from an IT department. It's normally a non-technical part of the business. It might be marketing, sales, brand, or somewhere else that says we want a X. Sometimes they've written that, they've come up with their idea, they've secured the budget and haven't even engaged with IT. So when you've got the external shiny customer that come in, do you ever find that there's a resistance into technology there?
I I think as a business, we've stayed away from very marketing led products, and
Okay.
I think that we've
Please.
much more focused on where the organization has a team that is technical. You know, we still now speak about the importance of a product owner, of a project manager within the organization. It's not just the budget. It's that, an organization needs the right people within its organization that dovetail to make that product successful. So we're often, we're 99% of the time we're working with teams that are also technical, and a number of teams as well, because there are a number of dependencies. And we've sort of, I don't want to be unfair to sort of marketing, but they have great vision, and they and a great appetite to build these fantastic things. They often don't have the technical expertise and the knowledge to know how long it takes. And so often you'll find, I used to find that deadlines were not realistic and budgets were not realistic. So I there's a, as you said, Matt, there's a required pragmatism and understanding of process, really. And I think we look for that when we work with a client. And it's about us as a company. You know, we're a small company, so it's really important we choose the right client.
Yeah, as well. Well, yeah, because you don't want to get caught up on a 6-month or 12-month project with, when you've only got a certain amount of people that you can put onto the work, and it be awful. No one wants that. No one. We all go there for the money and stuff, and that's fine. But actually, most of us want job satisfaction and want to really put great stuff out into the world. And if we're not, or if it's an awful product and project, that's no good for anyone.
I think there's a and this is again this was the whole question about knowledge, and how we all now have a much better understanding of technology, because we're all, it's touching our lives, and we've been using it for many years. And then and that's, so you've got people understand more, but then the educational piece, and it actually needs more education, because people have got more awareness of it. So
I read a thing about kids being better at tech than everyone else, but actually what they are, they're users, not developers. So the kids know, kids, they sound like the oldest man in the world. The younger people, they're brilliant on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, but they've got no idea how that works, where an image gets uploaded to, what happens to it then, and all that. So although there's a massive knowledge on how to be a user of tech, there's still a massive void. I think maybe even more so now, how maybe that tech is put together and stuff. Because you can go on now. I'm holding off talking about AI because I've got a couple of quick questions, and then I'll hold that chat GPT and writing code. We'll go back into that one in a minute. The two things before we jump into that is, you said about having almost like a champion in the business, who keeps everyone on their side. And I think that is that product owner, isn't it? And I think that role, product owner, project manager, I think a project manager is kind of essential, but most of the time you would hope you guys are doing that and sort of checking in. But that product owner on the client side, to really make sure the product is there, everyone in the business understands it, and it's getting delivered. Because the worst thing is that you go and you deliver a product and the business hasn't been as informed about it as maybe it was, and then it doesn't get the uptake. So I think that product owner is really, really key. And I think more so now than ever before. I don't think it always has to be a technical product owner, but it's almost that champion, that one person in the business that says,
has ownership of the product, is
yeah, because otherwise so many times an amazing product can get put in, not used, forgotten about because no one in the business knew about it, knew what it really was. And I've been on some early day. I think it's long enough to talk about the Mears one. Huge cost and massive failure, not because the product wasn't good, not because everyone who delivered it wasn't good, just no one cared and it wasn't articulated back to the business that actually you can do all this now. And God, the amount of money those days are gone. That's why I ended up being sort of a product owner slash project manager slash whatever, because I could see it. I could see it happening in front of me. Just this will not work because no one cares about it. And I think having that internally is really huge. And I think the last one, Sarah talked about it, about champions, and John. Yeah, just everyone who I've talked about it's whatever you call that role is having that person in the client inside actually
Yeah.
pushing that forward.
And I guess it's taking ownership, isn't it? That
Yeah.
they take ownership of that. And
Yeah, it's just that ownership role,
yeah,
isn't it? Yeah,
yeah,
yeah, and that might be the top guy, or it might just be someone who's sort of doing it a few days a week, I think. But having that one person that reminds everyone that's going on. I was going to ask you, have you got? It's difficult picking your favorite child, isn't it? Have you got a favorite project that you worked on that really just sort of stood out? I'm sure they're all amazing. They're all 10 out of 10s, but is there one that you were like, this was the one that really?
well, I think there's a few that stand out for different reasons. We started working with Ewan again very early on, must have been maybe 2008, 2009. And Ewan were aware of a problem with students and anxiety and stress. And there were kind of, I think there was a lot in the news about that, about the problems with students in the university. So Ewan took the decision to bring in-house a psychologist to work with students, and our brief was to take the tools of the psychological tools and the knowledge of the psychologists and put them basically into a mobile application that students can use. And it was called the SAM app. It was a student anxiety management app. And we built this in collaboration with Ewan, and they, it wasn't licensed. It was a free app. It was widely available in the App Store, and it became like one of the top 10 health apps in like globally. It was massively used in the US, and it was the uptake was really huge, and we could see the impact, and could see it working and being used. And I think that was, that probably was I'd say one of the big ones, certainly around. And then we worked with the NHS. We've done a lot around mental health, so early intervention, psychosis. We've been working with Bath University and an NH Trust on supporting teenagers that self-harm. Lots of very, they're like the heart apps, the ones that make you feel, not the heart health, but they're.
But it must be nice for the team to know that they can go home and go, I'm actually,
Yeah.
I'm doing something. I'm doing something actually. That makes it infinitely better. If you were just pushing out betting apps or something, it would be a completely different feeling.
And from very early on, and we have many inquiries for different, like say we wouldn't work with gambling apps. We wouldn't. We were approached by, I think it was American Tobacco and British Tobacco, so we didn't work with, because it just wasn't aligned with our sort of health. So we kind of looked for projects where there was high value and that they, there was purpose really. And I think it, it made working on those projects worthwhile for me and for the team. Definitely.
I turned down a tobacco company once It was a lot of money. I turned it down to be a good guy. Sometimes I sit there in the cold at night and
That's why we're not rich.
well, smoking's not that bad. No, but it's right. You've got to keep to your Otherwise, I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe I'm a bit of a hippie, but otherwise, it's just not right, and it's just not the thing.
Yeah, so I think we've kind of, I would say, there's those apps that sit within there, and then there's the ones that have been technically challenging and really unusual. And again, we work with AD, and AD are like a company based in Cheltenham. They make they make boiler parts and parts with boilers, with home and commercial boilers. And they came to us and they wanted to, and again, great innovation, a great drive to be a leader in tech. And they came to us and they had lots of service people going out and servicing boilers and doing tests doing checks within the water of the boilers, and then they would be sent back to a lab and they would check all the ingredients, but the components in water in the lab. So we helped them use the camera phone, and we built an algorithm and a card with gradients that allowed them to use the camera phone to basically do the lab test while they were on site. It's amazing. It took a year to just get our remit was to get 95% accuracy comparable with the lab. So we spent a year building, kind of just getting the algorithm, the card right, and they actually were able to license make the technology. The IP was protected, and they went through. And then that was an amazing, it was a great product. It's being used today.
So that you built there, that's now getting used in different places.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
Oh,
and
wow.
It's part of the and again, working within an organization that from very early on really understood the importance of digital transformation, but really doing it right, and understanding
desire, but they also want to do it well and get it right. Those are rare, but when they come together, it's a perfect storm. Yeah.
So there's the ones that are very technically challenging and very innovative, and hot, they're important and have high impact within the organization. When we look at a project or product or client, we want to know that it's going to be a minimum 5-year journey, and that's what we try and, often clients will come and it's that they want to build something in 6 months or 12 months, but we get them into this idea that, it's a living long life cycle, and we building over a number of years, really.
I think it needs to be. I'm on sort of the other side, and quite often I'll be brought into a project because they've offboarded the old developer and onboarding the new ones and stuff on those short, brought someone in for 6 months and they didn't do it right. And it's very rare, is it, that I ever hear anyone say, these are a great company, they've worked really well with great processes, so we're going to pick someone else. It's always, they phoned it in, they didn't quite deliver on the spec, and X, Y, Z. So, like you said, with the 5-year sort of tailwind to have on a project, you can only get that if you do a good job, can't you? Otherwise, you're out within 6 months, sort of thing. And there are so many that are out within 6 months. So the fact that you've got all of these customers, they're long tail ones and stuff, must be testament to what you're doing.
Yeah. Well, I think it's drawing on, it is like a relationship, and it's there's something in the Agile methodology that the development team do called a retrospective. And the retrospective is amazing. And we would get our clients to do a retrospective themselves, and we would share our retrospectives So the idea is that you sit down and you're honest about where things are working, where they're not going right. How can we improve from both sides? And it is not, sometimes it's the client's fault, it's the developer's fault, but it gives you the opportunity in the retrospective. And this needs to be done, every 6 months, not before the relationship goes sour, but it's about saying, what are we doing really well? What are we not doing well? And how can we improve on it? How can we work better together?
And do you know how often that doesn't happen? Because again, being the guy that comes in for a lot of end of projects or the start of something, and retros, they might happen here, but quite often it's a thing that's talked about in a pitch that we'll have these and we'll do these, but actually never come to fruition. They're so important because absolutely, as you said, no one's perfect. Things change, and that Agile is amazing for being able to work like that. But uh, clients need to know where they could be a bit more easy to work with, or change their processes. You need to know, and it's all, if you don't have that conversation, it just builds up this sort of unnecessary
Yeah,
sort
and you
of
get project fatigue, and you start to get, and it is like, it's like a relationship and like in a marriage, and what you want it to be able to kind of openly say. So if they're investing a lot of money, you know, you I think the worst thing is to get to the stage where you have got to go to another, take it to another developer, because, and we often get it where somebody's come to us and said, it hasn't gone the way we wanted, it hasn't gone well. And then we've got to take over the project. And then for us, it's, you've got to go back, you've got to review the code, and often it's not that the code's been written badly, it's that there isn't a process in place.
it's that, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we reached the magic number where we could start talking about AI very quickly into it. So that's been really, really fascinating. But what I am also really interested in is just your thoughts on this. We talked about the sort of the start of technology. You were there in the early sort of start of the App Store. People have changed. The way that people expect content is different. I think we went through, everyone wants an app. I think cloud was a huge thing for a while, and everyone wanted the cloud, which I think was just someone else's computer that wasn't yours, that connected to the internet. And now we're in AI. What do we even do here? Because every conversation that I have, every job opportunity that I look for, every piece of work, AI is there, is there, is there. Everyone wants it. No one quite knows what it is. No one quite know what to do with it. What's your, let's just let's just talk about it.
Try and avoid, it's so much noise, on LinkedIn and everywhere else. And I think sometimes with, it's like ADHD, and I need to just put the headphones on and not annoy it. I need to, I need to let, I would like the desk to settle. And I think that, and you will know that with AI, and it's going to have a massive impact across all industries, across technology and everything else. But there is still a need for pragmatism. There's still a need for process. There's still a need for the questioning, why are we doing it? There are still all of these things that we've discussed need to be applied to AI. And I think you probably saw there was a recent MIT released a report to say that something like 95% of AI implemented projects have failed to deliver the results required. So I kind of see the same stories, that we are still people within the driving seat of it. We are still the people using it. And if we're implementing it, our customers are using it. So I still, I believe that it needs that pragmatism. It needs, more than ever, need to be asking the question why. And I think that one of the biggest challenges that we've always had in digital is the perception of simplicity. That if you see a screen, one screen on a phone or a computer, or looks very simple, but the complexities and even more so the dependencies on what goes on behind that are the challenges, are the costs. A great saying which I use is that ideas are cheap and implementation is costly. And I think it's something. There's a few variations of that, but
no, but it's really
so
true.
I think what I see is with AI the ability to quickly spin up prototypes, to test things, to build things very quickly, is there. But taking that into a valuable, usable product that delivers within an organization is something else. And I think that we run the risk of forgetting about the importance of those foundation.
Nailed it there, actually. With it's almost a prototyping tool, and a perfect example away from any business is my son. He's pretty good at drawing, actually. It's really good. So he wanted to. It's a great YouTube channel. Every kid wants a YouTube channel. I created one as well. Can't help it. So wanted to create, and he wanted his icon to look really good, his logo. And I said, draw it out. And what we can do is, if you draw it out, we can use some of the digital tools to turn it into something. But he was, no, I'm going to do it in AI. So he made this thing, and it looked quite cool. It was very good. But the problem is, it's an instance. You can't do anything with it. There's no behind it. There's no layers. There's no thing. So there was this image, and it was quite interesting watching him go through the process and saying, well, yeah, but I wanted that green. And then obviously when you type into chat and say, we'll make this green, it creates a whole new image because it never creates the exact replica with a green top.
Yeah.
So and it was quite interesting. It was quite an eye opener for him, I think, to see that, I love AI. I use it all the time. I use it every day in different things. I absolutely adore it, but I'd be hesitant to just let it run my day to day because of those the inconsistencies are still too frequent for it to really be a thing for me. Now, I'm not as technical as your developers. Are they using it for workflows and things now? Is that
Absolutely, yeah, and in development, and it's been has been around a while as like a support tool, and I think it can help us. It can take away some of the mundane, kind of the low level. Yeah, but it's still, there are often, my guys will often say there's times when it's just quicker to write the code, to do it themselves, and they know how they do it, and AI might go around a particular task the long way round, and that maybe is that goes back to humans and the way we think and about the logical thinking and how we approach something. So you still need you need to validate, you need to be watching it, and you need to know what you're doing.
It's the question of how much time it takes out. Joe, last week, I was talking with him using prop tech, and he was saying that he uses it for email. So he might take a few notes, Scrubby, put it in an email, use AI to formulate that email, make it a bit more formal. But then what it ends up doing is spending as much time checking, rewriting than if he'd have just sat down in front of it and just wrote out a nice email. And I just think we're still at that stage, and I do the same. The one thing I use it for constantly, note taking. It's the best note taking tool ever. I'll make my notes in there and just say, give me a 4. I think it's good for those sort of things, but it's less good when you're putting that in front of people. It's probably because the inconsistencies are still a little bit there.
And it's about using it. It's the right tool for certain jobs. It's not the right tool for every job. And I think with any technology, it's about that. It's about using it when it needs to be. Yeah.
And I've said all that. I use it literally constantly. I put it as an app on my phone, as in on the home screen. I chat to ChatGPT all the time, and I use it in the car now. 'Cause cars link up to it, and I'll use it as a note taking thing. I'll talk to her. I'm going to say her because she's got a female voice. I know it's not a real person, but I'm going to talk to her, and I'll say that this is what I'm thinking, about podcasts and different ideas, and then it's all transcribed. And I don't know any other way I would do that, and other than paying for a PA, right? That's what a PA would do and stuff, and it takes away a lot of those sort of, I think you said, almost those low hanging fruit, those manual labor things, and that time taking.
Yeah. The risk is where, which is great. I think the risk is where it starts to take away our ability to think creatively, logical thinking, where we, I always, when you remember when we used to drive and use a map, you'd have an A to Z or a map, or and I think now, so now, like now we're so used to Google Maps, and we start to lose that ability to be able to plan a route, and we're so dependent. And I think we need to be careful we don't.
You've said that, and I can remember maybe like a week or so ago, 10 years earlier, about dropping my parents down to the ferry. And my mother said, "Do you know where you're going?" And I just literally said, well, "Map will take us to where we're going." And that was that, wasn't it? Oh no, I've become a product of my own. But it is that, isn't it? That you just go, "Oh yeah, no, well, I'll accept that. I'll accept that that's the best route." It probably isn't. And the worst thing that the maps did for me once, and it was Apple Maps, and I love Apple, but it was their own fault. So I was driving back from Bubby Castle. It's a beautiful castle. I had a lovely dinner. And then it's just a nice road all the way home. And I paid attention to Apple Maps, and it took me through this. I've just bought a brand new car as well. It was about 2 weeks old. And it took me down through this lane, and it was so tight. I got out of it at the end of it. The whole car just had hairline scratches all the way down it. And every time I looked at that car for the next 3 years or something, I had it. All I could see were those, and just thought, Apple Maps, how dare you?
And I think our dependency on it. I was thinking, imagine how it affects, and we use it now. I think the adoption is of any technology, AI, the curve for mass adoption, with tech was always, it's always slow. The curve is long. We've seen this huge kind of uptake, and I just wonder what it'd be like, say, in 5 years, when we're all using it so much. We're so dependent on it for so many things. What would it be like if suddenly overnight it was all taken away? What would it won't be, but what would, how would we, what would that feel like? Where we've become so dependent.
I think I'd have palpitations. I think I really would. I think,
yeah, it's a bit like the internet. We've got suddenly the internet goes. But I kind of ask myself, how would I function if tomorrow this wasn't available?
so I guess with you guys, because you've grown up through having to do it properly, you would revert back to, that's it. We'll just do it the old-fashioned way. We'll dig in. We'll roll our sleeves up. It's an enabler, not a need for you guys. It's just something that makes everything a little easier in areas, I suppose. But yeah, if you were today and you were sort of a young startup doing it for a couple of years and everything, you've written all your code. ChatGPT 5 now, you can write an app in code and stuff. But it's knowing it after, isn't it? It's knowing that, what did it actually write? What is that? What are those things? If you don't have those, so I think there will be a whole series of developers and technical people who know more than I could say, know more than you could say, but actually, do they know anything at all?
Yeah.
Or are they just repeating parapassion the things that have come out of the black box?
And you'll remember 20 years ago, there was a tool came out. Adobe, I think it was Adobe, brought a tool out called Dreamweaver.
The Dreamweaver.
Yeah. Can you remember? And Dreamweaver would allow the likes of us, non-developers, to be able to, to build a website. It was a there you go, and it to a degree worked. But the minute there was anything wrong that was outside of that, without the ability of being able to get underneath and know what those problems were. So, and again, looking at AI, one of the questions I ask is where is the quality? Where is the drive for quality? How do we know it'll spin up a logo or a brand, but but how do you know that really reflects your...
Where's the heart? Where is the actual truth? Exactly that. Where did you sit down and it develop? And that's the thing you can't get with AI, is that you might come up with something and say, that's a really pretty picture there, but there was no heart that went into it. You didn't have iterations. And like I say, those iterations change so much. By the time you got it to regenerate in 5 times, it's something completely... A cat is now a dog. Just touching on Macromedia. So I used to build websites in Macromedia at Dreamweaver, and that is where I realized it falls perfectly into what you said, is that it wasn't good enough. And I ended up buying this book to teach myself HTML and CSS. It was called the HTML Dog, it was called. And it was this book, and this guy had basically gone through the same journey about 5 years before me in it.
Yeah.
And it was that, and it was just start day one. Okay. And learning is always the best way, because otherwise, and the thing that I think now is, I'm a technical product owner, whatever, it doesn't really matter what that thing is, but I'm in there, I'm dealing with either the client or the customer on a project. And if I can't call that this is not right and articulate why it's not right, or dig in and ask the actual difficult questions, then what are you? You're not useful at that point if you can't say, well, why have you done it this way, and be able to have that conversation, or articulate why. If I was working with you guys and I was in with the client, being able to articulate, well, they're doing it this way because, and it will be X, Y, Z. If you've just learned it all through, the internet, you've got no chance.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I say with my guys is we keep, and as annoying as it might be, we keep asking why. Why are we doing it? What's the impact? We don't want to be a yes company and just say yes. You need to be curious. You need to know why you're doing something, and in doing that, it allows us to deliver better products for clients, and they have a bigger chance of being successful. AI at the moment is a yes person beyond belief. It's and it'll change, but
I wonder what the next one will be. That's the most exciting thing. What will be the next buzz? What will be the next thing that everyone gets obsessed with? And it's going to make the Daily Mail tell us why it's going to take down the world and and all of that. But it's fascinating, isn't it? And I've seen quite a change just watching the news, that it's going to take everyone's jobs. Now it's not going to take everyone's job. Now it's going to fix everything. And you go through this cycle. It's almost like rock and roll music. And you go through this cycle, and then it's fine. And then it's the next one, and it's the thing. Yeah, no, fascinating. This has been the most fascinating chat I've had with everyone so far, because it's just been a really nice chat. And I think it might actually change the way I use some of the format in it, because it's just been a really nice conversation about the internet and product and stuff. I am going to ask you some random questions though, because I ask these to everyone. So bear with me.
Yeah.
Right. So difficult one on you. Have you had an app that's caused you the biggest headache? Has there been a product or a project that's just been an absolute headache?
Around, I would say that they're down to a lack of process within the client, or a lack of understanding. It's not normally the product. Everything we build, nothing is simple. The complexities of they are complex, and by nature, especially because again, a lot of the products we've worked on are connecting to other bits of hardware. We work with RoadTalk on connecting to an actuator, Airflow connecting to a fan, so, and again, we worked with Colomara. We worked for Colomara for 10 years on a connected tap for hospitals. And when they first came to us, they had a prototype board and nothing else. And so complexities and the challenges of building digital products we're used to. It's the process, it's the parts that assumptions. Assumptions are the biggest challenge. When the communication, these are all the things that make a product or relationship challenging. If that
goes back away from taking away any of the technical, doesn't it? It's people. It's actually those conversations that you will have had a million times and stuff that just don't happen, and they don't happen, and that's the thing. And again, projects that I've worked on recently, there's faceless third-party suppliers, and it just doesn't work. You've got to be in there. You've got to be in the business. You've got to be talking to them, and things change as well, and being able to sort of move with change. One feature that everyone wants in an app, and the one that made me think about this was everyone always wanted a notification center, and we would always build an app thing out and a design out for an app notification center, and that. I'm not sure any app has had one now, but that was one thing that everyone wanted. It's one thing that everyone always says, "Oh, it's got to have a this."
I tried to think about. I can't. They are. I suppose because there's trends, so
yeah,
they are pretty much consistent. And I think the products we've worked on are quite niche and quite unique, unless
they're more
yeah. What I will say is one of my favorite pieces of functionality and in an app itself, which is amazing, and I don't use it very often, but is really important, is it what three? I was getting it. Is it what 3 words or 3 what? I could never. What three? Hardly use it, but I have used it a couple of times, and
they need. I don't know what, because I remember them advertising on TV for a while and bits. That is the one. No one knows about it. It's an amazing piece of tech.
amazing.
It's just fantastic.
Yeah.
But it's the most I'll go with that one. It's the most underused thing out there. I don't know, is it a private company or is it a government thing? I'm not sure.
It's private. I mean, the technology.
I don't know how they're making it.
The ability, the fact that they've been able to go out and map by meter the globe and give you 3, and for me, I'm riding a motorcycle a lot, often in places that I wouldn't have a clue where they are. If I'm with somebody else, or if we saw an incident or somebody where needed help, I have it on my Apple Watch. I could literally get the 3 words to that location, share them with emergency service, and they would know. And I think it's it's one of those things that's kind of it's a bit like the weather app, and I try and use that when we look with clients and about when we're building a product, is look at the real 3, if you can get 3 amazing things like that, that's what. And I don't know about a feature, but that's kind of the technology in the app that I always think is amazing. Definitely.
I looked up. This says more about me. I looked up what my home, what 3 words would be, and it was. I wanted it to be something like eagle, strong, powerful. I think it was like damn squib. I don't know what it was. It wasn't great. I was a little bit disappointed in my choice of what 3 words.
You've got to move a meter until you get the one that it's. Oh
Just keep moving house until I find something cool. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, definitely.
Is there an industry trend? Is there an industry trend? It's AI. We can move on from that one, unless there's something else that you want to sort of dip into. iPhone or Android? Come on, it can't ever be any other way, can it?
Great. Well, I normally have 2 phones. I love iPhone because of the hardware. I love Google because of its openness and its flexibility. I don't like Apple's walled garden and its things like iMessage, them not allowing opening up iMessage,
Irritating,
and
yeah.
so it's irritating. But I use an iPad, I use a MacBook, I use an iPhone, and their integration and the way they work together. Yeah, probably
I would struggle. I would struggle to move to. And there are definitely things. I see Android sometimes, and I've had a couple of. I bought a couple of Android devices over the years and sort of flitted around with them, and I find them to be interesting for a time, and then I always end up going back to my safe, comfy pair of trousers, whatever
Yeah.
it is. And all of the frustrations that Apple bring me, I'll take those after the jank that I get with Android.
Yeah.
Two last little ones. Tea or coffee or a different drink of choice? Any favorite? Coffee.
Coffee always.
I don't trust people that drink tea. I
Coffee.
mean, I tried to. My coffee machine's broken at the moment. It's been broken for about 4 or 5 days.
I spend every morning between 7 and 9 at the coffee cabin on Prince Bridge. Raymond that runs the coffee cabin there. And I meet loads of people. We all come, we sit down, drink coffee. I met loads of people there.
You don't get that in a tea place. It's full of weirdos. So, so I've been drinking tea for the last few days, and I don't know if I like it. A deadline or a detour? Which one's brought you the most satisfaction?
Always the detour. You detouring. I spent my life detouring. Detours. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I think that was everything. I've thoroughly enjoyed our chat today. It's been really good. I think you and I could sit in that coffee house and just talk about tech and different things for ages. And it feels like we've gone through similar sort of things. I think. I heard. I think Sarah mentioned. Did it right that you've got a Apple, what's it called? The headset, the Vision Pro.
No, I didn't.
Have you not?
I've not. I've got Google. I invested in Google glasses.
Yes. Have you seen the new ones with the Meta have just released? They look pretty cool.
They're pretty cool. I mean, it's interesting. Again, it's a technology that's been around now for a while, and adoption's still low. Facebook have had Meta, and they've had different versions of that. Now they've moved into this partnership with Ray-Ban, and I had a pair of the Ray-Ban glasses. I actually, again, one of my most used bits of tech is I bought a pair of glasses called X-Real, and I plug them into my phone, and
Are they the ones that do the big cinema screen?
Yeah.
Is that
normal glasses? And instead of me having my iPad and annoying my wife with a bright screen, I put my glasses on, and I've got 120-inch screen. I watch movies on.
Oh, I see them online. I sort of like, there's a load of people on the YouTube and things. Are they good? Yeah.
Well, I can sit on a plane. I can sit, if I've got a flight, I'll sit on the plane. I put them on. I can see through them, and I just have a screen and I watch big screen movie on.
I love that.
Great.
I love that. Yeah. I've been a big fan of VR from the original. The first Oculus that came out, I didn't get that because the Mac guy didn't have the PC, and then the PlayStation brought out VR. It's about 8-7 years ago. Then I got a Meta Quest, and I love it. But what I found is it's still. I think it's because it's so big and it's on your face. That's why I was thinking about the Vision Pro, but then that was too expensive. So I think glasses, AR glasses, they're the ones, aren't they?
And I think for me, AR is just, and I think Apple probably, their Vision Pro is way too expensive. Consumers is too, but I think they're probably going to just evolve that into glasses, and it will be
that'll be selling for 10 grand one day because people will want them. I think if it was 1,500, 1,800, I probably could have lied to myself that it was important to have, but it was too expensive.
Yeah, there's a point where £3,500 is just
it's it's a different number, isn't it? It's a different number.
Yeah.
Thank you again. Thanks so much today. I'll let you get
Right,
on with your day. It's been
yeah,
a really lovely chat. So thank
and
you.
you, yeah, really enjoyed it.
Cheers. Thanks.